was asking God through prayer, seeking a good news source. I believe he showed me the Epic Times. I deliver the mail and came across an issue. The front page intrigued me and I subscribed. Now I cut out articles and give them to friends and family. I leave old issues at the library and around my community. We read it to our kids and love the positive messages in each article. So why do I think everyone should read the Epic Times? Because they're bringing back traditional values to this great country.
Last year in Florida, there were 80,000 pregnancies terminated. And here's a sobering statistic. By midnight tonight, when most of us are sound asleep, another 219 precious boys and girls will have been killed in the state of Florida. I'm Mark Mink. I was conceived in an unplanned pregnancy. My teenage birth mother graciously placed me for adoption. Now I'm the state chairman for the Human Life Protection Amendment Citizen Initiative. Our mission is to amend the Florida Constitution through a grassroots citizen effort so the most victimized and vulnerable are protected. To accomplish this, we need almost 900,000 signatures from registered voters across the state of Florida by February 1st of 2024. With the bloodshed of the most precious happening on our watch, I'm asking for your help to build a wall of protection around these preborn lives, a constitutional wall of protection. Their very lives depend upon it.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're live again with Veteran Nation, and with today's episode, it's surprisingly not me who's been in trouble. I've been actually a good boy this week, but my honorable co-host, however, has been rather naughty. How you doing, TZ?
I decided to go hat-free tonight, so
that's okay.
All that shuffling.
Yeah, people won't call me the bald one now.
No, you're still bald, so I still have more hair than you. It's just finer.
So you had a very eventful weekend.
Yeah, and it's continuing to be eventful, apparently. So, what do you want me to what do you want me to say? Because I know that you had sent the links to our esteemed producers, so I didn't know what you had in store. I feel like I'm on to be interviewed tonight. That's what I feel like.
He has your video, your live stream from this weekend. For those who are watching who are new to the show,
does he have the live stream, or does he have the actual video that I put together after the live stream?
You know what? It might be the edited one that I sent him. It was whatever
and let's clarify too that the edited one is not edited for content. It's edited for time and to cut out all the ancillary
all your cuss words
stuff.
I know.
There's a cuss word coming.
But yeah, so we do have your video, and you were. I just want people to know that you run your own show in addition to being the co-host here, and that show is on YouTube, and it's Minnesota Black Robe Regiment. So if you search for that, you'll find TC shows there. It's a great show. A lot of people really like it. I tuned in for a couple of your shows that you had this week, as well as watched your live stream a little bit as it was happening, and then I watched the full thing later on. And you, like me, believe in the First Amendment. You know, it's the Bill of Rights are probably the closest thing that we have to being sacred within the American lifestyle, I guess you'd say. And we totally believe in it. and you guys were out there expressing your First Amendment rights. Kind of give us a little bit about that.
Well, so what had happened was earlier in the week, I had been approached by several people in my region saying, "Hey, there's this public town hall meeting that's being hosted by several members of the Minnesota Democrat Party in Rochester, Minnesota, the area that they represent, and we are planning a peaceful protest. We'd like to have it documented. Um, we'd kind of like to have you there to make sure that what gets streamed out is totality of the event and that we have coverage for the protest, because here in Minnesota especially, the media likes to paint any kind of protest that comes from a more Mises kind of libertarian perspective, or a more right of center conservative dissident view. They like to paint those all out as radical, dangerous individuals, while reminding everyone that people who are burning down entire neighborhoods during the George Floyd riots were mostly peaceful. So yeah, the media spin from the legacy media is what it is, and I have developed a bit of a reputation of covering protests, especially in the Rochester area, with transparency. And so I said, I'll see what I can do. I'll see about being there. And so I did show up on Saturday morning. It's about 9:30 Central Time. And, it's Minnesota, but it was a pleasantly warm day. It was like 25 degrees. So I wasn't nearly as bundled up as I would have been, on another part of the month where it was, sub-zeros. But I started recording on my GoPro from about the second that I got there, and I haven't even released all of that video yet. And so I went in uninterrupted, no problem. Was welcomed in by people. Saw that the place was filling up, and I decided I was going to go out and check on the people that were outside assembling to protest, and said, "Hey, you guys, if you're going to come in, you should, make sure you're out here. But I really think you guys should be coming in, because that's where the action's going to happen, as far as the three House of Representative members and the senator were going to be." And they said, "Oh yeah, we're all planning on coming in." And so I was interacting with a few different people, and I turned around and was going to walk back towards the building. And then I heard somebody saying, "You guys can't be here. You need to get off the property." And lo and behold, I looked over, and there's two young ladies there wearing campus safety team jackets that were giving these just directions. And of course, I heard this, and the crowd of conservative dissident voices were like kind of taken aback. And I said, why can't we be here? And well, it's private property. You need to get off the property. You need to go over there onto the sidewalk along the road. And I heard
public
that start to come
college,
out
right?
of her mouth. Yeah, it's a state college. It's publicly funded by the taxpayers. And I said, and let's keep in mind, folks, the university system, whether it's college, community college, actual university, whatever it is, when it's funded by taxpayer dollars, it should be the paragon of the First Amendment. That should be the place where ideas can be exchanged.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And it, the first thing she started to say was it's private property, and I said, don't even start with that private property stuff. We're going to knock that out right now. And I've had some people subsequent to my interaction watching and go, "Hey, you were kind of hard on her." And I'm like, yeah, I was. She's there as a representative of the state. She's there wearing a security uniform for what it is. She wasn't carrying a taser or a badge or a firearm, but she was there in the role of security, telling people, ostensibly having the authority of the university system behind her, that they couldn't be there. And she kept saying over and over again that they needed to get off of the property and onto the sidewalk along the road. And I said, not only are we not leaving, we're going inside. And I challenged her, and I said, you have no authority. And if you really think you have a right, she goes, well, I have the right to trespass you from here. And that's very key. And it's clear in the video. I have the right to trespass you from RCTC property. And I said, well, if you think so, then I think you need to call law enforcement to come have that conversation with us, because you don't have that and we're not going anywhere. And that's when she said, well, that's what I was going to do. So she already knew in her mind that she was going to call law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
And she went in. I then started my live stream on my phone to stream straight to YouTube. And then I said, hey guys, after this, I'm just be honest. I'm going to go in and see if they're going to try and kick me out. And somebody said, well, you went in there looking for trouble. If you watch the live stream, I didn't go in there looking for trouble. I actually had some really good conversations with a few people during the live stream that were very cordial, very civil, no problems. But when I was in waiting for the event to start, I looked over and I did see a Rochester Police Department officer, his name now identified as Rochester. He came in, he was scanning the crowd. He didn't talk to anybody. So I saw him and I'm like, this is not going to go well. He turned around and he went out, and I knew exactly what he was going to do. And so I picked up my stuff and I headed out and I followed him out. I kept distance from him. You saw I followed him out. If you watch the video, I follow him out. I make a wide swing around him to not be too close to him. I knew to keep distance. He made eye contact with me. As soon as I turned around and faced him, he said, okay, here's what's going on. You guys can go in, but you can't take your signs. And I want to make it clear, these signs weren't full of pornography. They weren't, and even if they were, whether I like it or not, First Amendment, I don't know.
Yeah, signs are exactly
there was no First Amendment. Which, if you really think about it, ultimately, if you want intrusive. A peaceful it's the least intrusive. Absolutely. Absolutely. Not to mention the fact that in the inside of the building and during the presentation, one of the elected servants points out, and I see a bunch of you wearing these shirts, and these shirts were a political message. But they were okay with that, but they didn't want the dissident viewpoints in there. And so I turned around and said, on what grounds? He goes, this is private property. And I said, absolutely not. He said it one more time. I countered that one more time. And I asked him, I demanded, you need to ID yourself. What's your name and badge number? And his first response to me out of the gate was, you know full well who I am.
And we both know, because, we've been around the block. We've done enough to know that every police department is going to have two things about policy. One is going to be about professionalism, and the other one is going to be about identifying yourself properly to the public, not just by wearing a uniform, but by also, when asked, giving your name and rank and badge number if they have them.
Or badge number, yeah, and badge number. And he refused. He wouldn't. I asked him 4 times in the course of another two officers arriving, and it was only after the second officers engaged with me, and I made the demand for his. And folks, it's a demand. I didn't ask, hey, can you please tell me who you are and what your badge number is if you feel okay with that? I said, no, what's your name and badge number? And he gave it immediately. And it was only then that I asked him the 5th time, and he gave it, and the other officer immediately gave his.
Nice.
And and to be honest with you, and thank you for saying nice. I know you watched it all. If you watch the whole video, and it is on the top of my page for visiting YouTubers, if you want to see it, you don't have to go searching for it. It's right there on the top of my page.
I actually, if you're watching on YouTube right now, I have it in the description link. The link is in the description. Sorry.
Juan's giving me motion sickness with how fast he's going through this.
What I like is when the president of the university starts grabbing your equipment.
I figured you'd get a quick kick out of that. So
and how is that not battery?
Well, it is. By the very definition, it is battery. And I even point out that he says, I'm not going to be on your video. And if you there again, when you watch, I would tell you, when you watch, I'm actually really cordial with him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
And what you can't hear on camera is he's admitting in front of his security officer, his little female security officer, that he sent out to run everybody off. Very brave of him. Very brave of this college president to send this 20-something, barely graduated, if graduated, and I'm almost guarantee you, student of law enforcement there at the community college.
I thought she was actually
Sent her
probably a
out
student,
to take
a current student doing like a what do I say, like a
work study or
work
something.
study thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I can almost guarantee you she was work study, yeah.
Because newsflash for everybody, I was a college student at one time, and I did work study, and a lot of that was security.
Just because you showed up to clean the college rooms out while there was a lecture going on doesn't make you a student, Skipper.
At some point, I'll have to talk about on the show. Doing that allowed me to meet Carrot Top in person. So.
Oh. But when I'm listening, he's telling her, really don't have where they are. We don't have any grounds to have them removed. It is public. It is a public forum. He wanted them gone. He wanted us gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I even interact with that and say, "Sir, could you please?" He said, "But they're not coming in with their signs." And I said, "Sir, can you please explain to me why? Can you tell me why?" And I said, "And I don't know you. Can I?" And I went to shake his hand, and he stopped and he looked at me and goes, "First things first, I'm not going to be in your video." And I said, "Well, this is a single party consent state. I don't need your permission." And he said, "Well, that's well and good, but I'm not going to be in your video." And he tried to move around me, and I turned because I didn't know what he was going to do. At that point, I was very, very jaded about this entire interaction because, to be honest with you, the very first officer I interacted with had already assaulted me. And that's very clear on video.
Yep.
He clearly assaulted me.
He shoulder checked
and
you.
People are like, "Well, he did. He gave me a one-arm check with his left hand into my right shoulder, which did push me back. I didn't fake this. I had no reason to. He made uninvited, unnecessary, unlawful use of force against me."
Mm-hmm.
And then he tried to threaten me with basically arrest for obstruction because I was still videoing him when he was talking. All three of the officers and the security officer, he threatened me with obstruction because they said, "You need to step back." And I was clearly 6 feet away.
And
he's like, "You need to give us space."
Oh, I think it hasn't gone to the Supreme Court, but every circuit court, I think at this point, has agreed that you can film public officials, and police officers are public officials.
Smith v. Cummings is a ruling by the courts that says that private journalism, private journalist, private citizen, private public person can record police in the execution of their duties at any time.
And I'll give you another one. Fordyce v. City of Seattle is actually about allowing journalists and media to record at a protest.
Yes. Which they also rejected me as a member of the media in that Juan says, "Let's watch." You know what? Instead of rehashing, you know what, Juan? Let's go ahead. Let's watch the video.
Hi there.
Oh, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
You got a radio voice. You have a radio voice.
I do?
Yeah.
You know, I've heard that before.
You got a radio voice.
Maybe I missed my call. Pulowski.
Why? Why? This is not private. Don't pull, it's private. This is public. This is publicly funded. Okay. Nope. You answer the questions.
Please move to the
No.
sidewalk.
Why?
Because
Why?
I have asked you to.
You don't have authority.
No authority.
You have no authority. Your
I
camp
work-
just no.
I
You.
work for RCTC.
I don't care who you work for. You technically are funded by taxpayers, correct? Are you funded by taxpayers?
I don't have to answer any of your questions.
Do we have to answer any of yours? Do we have to do what you tell us to do? Do you have lawful authority?
Here taking up space. You're not gone.
What reason do you have to remove us from publicly funded, taxpayer-funded property? We own this. You work for us, lady. You don't have any right to remove us.
I have the right to trespass you from RCTC property.
On what grounds?
What
What grounds? Nobody's moving. Nobody's moving.
You're young in your career.
Nobody's
Make sure you
moving.
don't make a mistake.
Nobody's moving. Nobody's moving. If you'd like to call actual police and have them come down here and talk to us,
Yes, that's what I'm
okay,
going to do.
go ahead and do that. You have no right. You have no grounds. You have no legal authority to remove us. Yeah, just call.
We are going in
Because we're all going inside
We'll get
too.
an abortion. She said this
No,
is private
let's not do that.
property.
Let's address
Private
this.
property.
Let's
go
address.
inside.
Let's address this the way it needs to be addressed. Let's not be.
You know, they pulled their shit when the
I-
game came down.
I know, but let's. I've seen you before. You know me.
Yeah.
Let's not re.
Well,
Let's not,
I can't lower myself to their standard.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
Because you saw as soon as she got challenged, she couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, she's calling the cops. So, one speaker. If the cops show up, don't everybody jump on it. One.
You are the guy that I from Telegram. All right. I thought I recognized you. I watched your videos.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I just got the finger. Hey, good for you. There we go. Support Liebling. Support FGM. It's just a pump of cells. Dan, you're dressed like you're in Florida. Good to see you. Yeah. Out here today. Just beautiful energy. And a lot of people have already gone inside. And there's another group that way.
All right, guys. So there's a town hall meeting going on down here in Rochester.
Thank you guys. Thanks for making it. Have fun.
There's
Be
a town,
good in
yeah. So
there,
there's a
okay?
town hall meeting going on here in Rochester, and campus security, and it's taking place on a public university property. And campus security tried to remove us already. They said they were going to call the cops. So far, law enforcement hasn't showed up. I think I'm going to go inside and see if they try to kick me out of the building. So I'm going to try and go inside to see if they kick me out. If
You are the media.
if law enforcement shows up, send somebody in to grab me.
We've got the
Thank you all for being here this morning. It is great to see a full house. We really appreciate the engagement and participation in our democratic process. You know, all our voices are included. We know that we have a diverse number of voices in our communities from a wide variety of perspectives. So we're very eager to be here with you this morning. My name is Jack Dudley. I live here at Rochester. I'm your neighbors, along with our
Hi there.
have such a difficult. I'm going to the meeting now. Alright. You guys are going to go to the meeting, you can't have your signs and stuff inside.
Why is that?
Why? Because it's private property.
It is not.
It is private
Show me where it's private property. Show me where it's private property.
This is private property.
According to what? Who funds this?
Public property.
What's your name and badge number?
You know exactly who I am.
What's your name and badge number?
Right here.
Identify. What's your name and badge number? What's your name and badge number? Right here is not a name.
Guys, this isn't a battle.
It is a battle. It is a battle. He just told us we can't be here with signs inside.
I said you can go in.
You didn't listen.
Why can't you have signs?
You didn't listen.
Do we have a First Amendment protected freedom?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Public
First of all,
location.
name and badge number.
This is not public.
Name and badge
Mueller,
number. This is,
2453.
thank you. Name and badge number.
Rosell 2385.
Name and badge number.
Rosell 2448.
Okay.
So this is private property.
Okay. No, it's not.
Okay.
This is publicly funded taxpayer property.
Taxpayer property. You are-
Taxpayer. We are taxpayers.
So I'm gonna go have a discussion with. I'm gonna go have a discussion with the chairman here. I'm also gonna have a discussion with security. I'm gonna get paperwork showing you that it's private
No,
property.
paperwork doesn't
And
mean
then we'll go
anything.
from
That's
there,
policy.
okay?
That's policy. That's not law. Law says this is private. This is not private property. This is public property. Oh yeah, you smug punk. Smug. He's being smug. You need to get him out of here. He's the problem. No, I'm the problem. I'm the problem. He said it.
Not a problem.
He's got a chip on his shoulder. He knows who I
You
am.
know exactly what you're doing. Exactly. You
Yeah.
want this reaction, so
First-
I'm giving it to you.
First Amendment protected activity. Because you're a tyrant. Yep, you heard that. Tyrant.
You're not coming in.
Why not?
You're not coming in.
I can't come in here?
No,
Why?
because they said they don't want you in here.
They don't want me in here?
No. they
Why
don't.
me?
Because you're causing a problem.
I
right
was
now.
in there perfectly quiet. I came out here
Yep.
because I knew you were going to run people off.
Yep, because they're on private property.
This is not private property.
Yes, it is.
This is not private property. Is there other media in here? I'm media.
No, you're not media.
Why am I not media?
Where's your credentials?
I don't need credentials. Show me in the First Amendment where it says I have to have credentials. Show me in the First Amendment. You know you're not going to win this argument.
No, but you're not going in to cause a problem.
Don't touch me.
You're not
I'm going in there to record the event. What's wrong?
Just throw you out later, then that's fine.
Throw me out later for what?
If they don't want you here, they can.
No, they can't.
Yes, I can.
They could throw me out for what? What law have I broken? What law? What law? What was that? Protect and serve my butt. Tyrant and suppress.
You're hiring if you want to try to make it better.
I'd never work for Back the Blue until it happens to you ever again.
Sounds good.
That way we can.
Can you back away right now?
Nope.
Yes, you can.
This is pertaining to us.
You
No,
just
it's
need
not.
to take a step back.
How not?
Now you're obstructing because I'm
You
telling
need
you.
to take
Obstruction is a
step back.
physical act.
You can go
Fine.
over there.
Take a step back. You can observe all you want, sir. But you're not gonna get in our face.
I'm not in your face.
You're not gonna be in our area.
This isn't your area. This belongs to the people.
So I just wanted to do that.
Absolutely, great, yeah.
With the protesters at the front.
We have no phones inside, but on the other side we do, but just as long as they can't come inside, obviously they can protest out there with the rest, that's fine, but not inside.
Because I know if we're saying.
Why can't they come inside? Sir, respectfully, I don't know your name.
Okay, first of all, I don't wanna be on your camera.
You don't, that
so,
doesn't,
you know,
this is single party
okay,
consent
all
state.
right, that's fine.
This is single party consent state, sir.
I understand that, but I'm still not gonna sit on the camera.
Okay, we're gonna step into an office and have a conversation.
Got it. Don't get behind me.
You can do your thing, I can't do mine? I mean, come on, man.
No, you're fine.
Yep.
Don't touch, let go of that. Did you see that? Did you see that?
Let's just go
Address
inside
that.
and have some
Address that. Did you see that? I haven't put my hands on anybody.
I didn't touch you either.
You tried to grab my equipment. That's attempted theft.
Fred, do you want to come in here for a sec?
Yeah, sure.
This is Rochester's finest. He's the only decent one.
You want to go in here, talk?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How you doing? Hi, officers.
Good, how are you?
How you go? All right.
I have to go get that guy's name. I need your name, sir. I need his name. I'm entitled to his name. I want to make a complaint. I want his name.
You don't need his name.
Who is he? What's his role?
I don't have to tell you that.
He works. He put his hands on me. I'm entitled to make that complaint.
I don't have to tell you that.
I hope you're not going to go be a cop. I hope you're not going to go be a cop.
Have a good day, sir.
You're going to be a horrible cop. You're going to be horrible.
Have a good
You're
day,
going to be
sir.
horrible. I want to know who he is. I can go down there. Who do you think you are?
Why are you being so disrespectful?
You started this out there by telling us we couldn't be here.
We have certain policies. You specifically did not rent this space.
We were outside and you told us we couldn't be there.
I asked you nicely. To
No,
move
you
to
told
the-
us to leave.
No, I did not.
You
I
said
asked
go to the
nicely
sidewalk.
To go to the sidewalk.
And then you called the cops.
They can have their presence here.
And so can we. This is paid for by the public. By the public. We the people pay for this. You need to read the Constitution, young lady. You need to memorize it, and the First Amendment, and the Second Amendment, and the Fourth, and the Fifth. Do you even know them? Do you even know them? You know you're wrong. You're going to be horrible at this if that's what you're going to be doing.
Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment. Secondary guidance systems engaged. Secondary guidance systems engaged. Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark.
Have you made a public complaint yet?
We have started the process. I have not yet.
Okay.
I'm looking for a couple of things. I need a attorney. If anybody knows an attorney out there in Minnesota that would be willing to tackle this, I would love to be able to have a conversation with them, because the one person who said they had an attorney said, "Oh, he went there to start trouble."
That always makes
a
me
joke.
laugh. Like I've seen auditors who are like trying to start trouble, and they're very vocal. They're, you know, being annoying, putting themselves in positions where there's going to be friction. I don't see any of that from you. I think that's a great audit that you did.
Well, I appreciate that, because the more I watch it, the more vindicated I feel. And then I'm going to be doing, I don't know, I'm thinking about doing it tonight. I might even do it tomorrow. I've been pretty busy. So, because I did an interview with my friend Horve on his nationally syndicated radio program last night on TNT Radio, and then I did a live stream on my channel immediately following that, where I talked about my goal. You know, when I have interactions, like I've had interactions with law enforcement. This is not my first since I was forced out of my career for my show, and those who are new watchers here on RAM and on the New Right Network, and maybe even on our YouTube channel. If you don't know, I spent almost 13 years in the law enforcement world. I have family members who are in the law enforcement world for 20 plus years. I have friends that have been in for 20 plus years. I don't have an all cops are bastards mentality, but I do have all cops should be held to an incredibly high standard when it comes to the oath they take, because I took an oath in the military and I took an oath several times within the law enforcement world. And one of the keys to that is keeping, defending, and protecting the Constitution of the United States. And part of that is the duty of law enforcement officers to intervene on behalf of the public, that first and foremost, their job is to protect our constitutionally delineated rights and liberties. And they don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
In fact, I was looking at the Rochester Police Department's code of conduct today, and there's one minor mention of the Constitution, and everything else is about laws and policies. And what you saw in that interaction was clear violation of their own policy about not using force when it's not necessary. And you tell me that video was an example of him using necessary force on me.
Mm-hmm.
There was no need for him to do what he did. Not to mention the fact that another public servant, the president of the college, intentionally backed into me, which was uninvited contact. He was doing that on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
He was doing it to make it look like he was the victim. And then he victimized me by trying to seize my equipment from me, which is a violation, as I put on the screen, of Minnesota state statutes.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't, you don't even have to take it and keep it. You just have to have an intention to keep it when you know it's not, or take it when you know it's not yours, with a clear disregard for my personal rights to my own property. Is exactly what he did. And what did the cop do? He chortled. He laughed when I said, that's an attempt at theft. He laughed at me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't, as I said in my stream last night, I don't go looking. I want police to do their job. Their first priority. I want them. That's what I want to show. I want to show it. But you know what I've been able to show with some of my interactions with law enforcement now over the last couple of years? Very rarely are they interested in actually keeping their oath. And I know people are like, man, you were so hard on her at the end, telling her she was going to be a horrible cop. I got news for you. That kind of behavior is going to be what's going to get an innocent person killed, or one of her fellow officers is going to get killed or severely hurt if she actually gets a job in law enforcement. Because she's the kind of person who's going to come up against somebody who's actually out to hurt her or out to hurt people. And she's going to give them an order and they're not going to want to follow it. And her only recourse is going to either be to pull a taser or pull a gun.
And
because she's not going to be able to handle it.
One thing you and I both are very big against is corruption. And corruption is not just the cop who does something wrong. It's not just the security guard who issues an unlawful order. It's those around who don't correct or report that behavior. I can understand maybe not
Right.
correcting your fellow officer right then and there. You got to have some tact, but I would absolutely correct them later or make a
I
report to a supervisor. And that's
I
how.
agree with you.
Go ahead.
I agree with you on a part of that they should be correcting. But in today's day and age, when you see a fellow officer or a fellow sheriff's deputy or a trooper or something do something wrong in public, you should correct it publicly. The public needs to see that happen. That's why we're losing faith. And what did we not see? Not only did his fellow officer not correct him for making contact with me, he could have looked at him and said, dude, I used to do that when I was on duty. Someone's like, dude, I'd like, stop. Just, you're provoking. Even if it was just an attitude, like step outside of the unit,
They need Marine Corps
take a deep
gunnies
breath.
with
I've
knife
got
hands.
this.
Knife hands.
Oh, but he didn't do that. And worse, when I was assaulted, when my personal property and I were physically aggressed by a supposedly upper echelon member of our community, they did nothing. And I'm going to tell you guys something, and this is what my next stream is going to be about this issue. I have the proof. I have the printed proof that Rasul, the one who aggressed me, patently misrepresented my actions that day. In fact, I'll see if I can.
Do I have the permission to post that in our community channel?
The report that I sent you?
Yes.
Or the video?
The report.
Yeah, I don't care.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't care. So the other officers, theirs was very vague and not accurate at all, and somewhat deceptive. But what he wrote, and this won't take long. This is from Officer Roussel. His narrative, entering into the status screen, which is an official document, by the way, that can be used in court. Requested protesters to move from area to public sidewalk. He never did that. That's a lie. Did anybody hear him say that? Nope, never. To sidewalk, trying to explain private property, but they would not listen, stating the property is state aid funded, so it makes it public. That part's true. Did not push the issue with them. That's untrue. He certainly did. One male recording became aggressive verbally, who continued to get close to officers and was asked to back away multiple times. Patently untrue. At no time did I ever get close to them. They got close to me because as I walked in, he turned around and made me stop. I did not close the distance with him in a way of being aggressive. And when we were further in and I was recording, I was a safe distance away and even did take a step back, even though I didn't need to. Mm-hmm. This is an inaccurate report, but it gets better. Then he goes on to talk about one attendee who's, I'm going to be putting that video out on my channel as well. He goes on, he says, got asked multiple times from upset protesters for name and badge number, gave information when requested. Yeah, after I asked the fifth time and the other officer gave his. And here's something else. No mention from this officer that he made physical contact with me, which is a use of force, regardless of what anybody thinks. Whether you think a taser should have been deployed to be use of force, or some sort of arm bar or handcuffing, any contact that an officer makes with any person is a use of force. And he did not put in there that he did that. He misrepresented the things that were said and done. He misrepresented my actions, and he never, not one of the officers ever mentioned that the president of that college put his hands on me and was aggressive towards me. Not once is that mentioned. And ladies and gentlemen, this is why if you consider yourself a conservative or a patriot, you cannot believe for a minute right now that these people are going to be on your side. They're going to just follow orders. And they're going to do whatever they need to do to be comfortable in their jobs. And you want to know what happens to the ones like me who do speak out? They force you out, and they protect the bad eggs.
I am going to be doing an open records request for the body cam footage at Rochester.
I get first dibs on that.
But here's the thing about open records requests. It's always more powerful the more people who request that footage. So if you're watching and you've got the time, I highly encourage you to request that body cam footage. Because it'll be good to see, did they turn it off? Did they have it on? What type of things, were they saying?
And you can ask for you can also ask if the officers had to write reports afterwards as well. Because if they didn't write reports, violation because there was a use of force, so a report should have been written. How did they report it? And if they did, then you're entitled to read those.
That's one thing.
All of that. So I'm sorry. Go ahead, Skipper.
Oh no, that's one thing I want to start doing is with so many of the people that we come in contact with, where we do FOIA requests. We need to some way to organize them so that maybe it's like a Google Sheets or something that I put out there where people have the ability to go look at here are the reports that are made, here's what was requested, here's if there's a number attached to it. For instance, with my FOIA requests to the national government, there's always a FOIA number, and that way, if more people have this and we're piggybacking off each other, it becomes very clear these are requests that are of public interest.
Right. Absolutely. I know that for some people in the audience, especially here on Veteran Nation, there's kind of an affinity. Juan, if you disagree, and Juan, if you think you're going to need to fire me after tonight, I understand. But if you guys disagree, but there is a brotherhood of sorts between veterans who have never served in law enforcement and the law enforcement community, and even veterans who have served in law enforcement. There's definitely that affinity. And so our natural reaction is to look at people who have ever put a badge on and ever sworn the oath and want to be on their side, to always want to give them the benefit of the doubt. And I understand why, but it's time that our worldviews on this, our philosophical perspective on this, it really needs to change. The nature, and as the guest on the show before, was it Brian? Is it Circe? And the colonel were pointing out that our world is changing. It is changing. We are in the midst of an uptick in Marxist ideology in the minds of people who govern, who are elected servants in this country, and that bleeds down into the people that they have authority over. And when I mean the people they have authority over, I mean other public sector employees. That has bled down into them. And there is a massive shift in the mentality. You could say what you want about the old-fashioned law enforcement, but, back when Bob worked the beat in, Beatersville, Arkansas, he probably grew up in Beatersville, probably lived in, Beatersville and started his law enforcement career in Beatersville. He wasn't running around really all that. He might have been lazy and stuff, but this local mentality of these are the people I live with. I work with them. I see them on a daily basis. I shop in the same stores as them. And that's gone because they do now see themselves as superior, as your, Juan, you're asking a good question. How about sheriff? Sheriff's a great position. The problem is that the sheriff is also tied to funding. So you can have a great sheriff. You can have a sheriff that's going to stand, and there are some of them out there. There's a sheriff out in Arizona. I cannot remember his name off the top of my head right now. But he's very much a libertarian, and he's flat out said, I'm not enforcing. No. But there is a sheriff out in Arizona who has flat out said, I'm not going to enforce COVID mandates. I'm not going to enforce any of this stuff. And the county came to him and said, we have the purse strings, right? And that's the problem. That a sheriff who does stand up runs a risk of having his budget cut and losing hiring positions. And so when the sheriff does that, he knows he's taking a risk. But when you look, the vast majority of law enforcement in this country are not sheriffs. They're local police, they're state patrol, and they answer to elected public servants who appoint them to those positions. And you do not rock the boat, because they will make an example out of you in a heartbeat. So we do need more sheriffs who are much more constitutionally minded, but we also need to find a way to not tie their funding to what the county board wants, especially if that county board is way off in la la land on the whacked out left. And I'm working on legislative proposal here in Minnesota that will require 24 to 30 hours annually of constitutional training for officers. And now that sounds like a lot, doesn't it? But if you look at what most continuing education programs for law enforcement are, they're looking at a minimum of 120 to 180 hours of continuing education a year. What is it to put 20 to 24 hours of constitutional training for these guys? Because they need it. These guys and gals, they need it. And you saw that very clearly in this video. Very clearly. They don't care about the Constitution. They raise their hand and they swear that oath, and they walk out the door, and all they're worried about is not rocking the boat and keeping their job. And by the way, they kind of like the power. And that's dangerous for us, because here's the deal. You see what I did there? Because cops like to do that. Here's the deal. Who are they going to send to your house when they pass their red flag laws?
Yep. Oh, the ATF is doing that right now with the stabilizer brace law. The ATF is passing a rule right now that if you bought a foreign-made...
It's already passed.
It's passed. Well, actually, it wasn't passed. It was just written.
It's past their bars. What I meant to say.
They just haven't taken it into effect yet. And pretty much, if you bought a foreign-made weapon with a stabilizer brace, it has to be destroyed. Has to be destroyed.
Or turned in.
Ridiculous.
And who are they going to send to that? The ATF doesn't have enough agents to go door to door to look for those people. Who are they going to send?
Yeah, exactly.
To come confiscate that.
Exactly.
And you have to start asking yourself a question. Do you think that Officer Rousseau is going to say, oh, I'm sorry, that's a violation of the Second Amendment of the Constitution of the United States? Or is he going to go, okay, wherever you need me to go? And if he's willing to put his hands on me for exercising my First Amendment liberty as a member of the independent press, what's he going to do to a person who he thinks has a weapon on him?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I just think about this. I know this is probably a much more serious episode of Veteran Nation, and probably way out of the wheelhouse for a lot of our viewers, because I know that a lot of our viewers on Twitter and Facebook and other social media platforms probably have that "I back the blue" thing in their profile somewhere. And I'm going to get emotional. I'm running a risk here because I have family who don't understand. One of them even said, "I know you hate all us cops now." And that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
What you saw from me that day was not an issue of hating anyone. I love my fellow citizens. I love my fellow members of this republic, and I love my republic, and I will die to defend her. And I took an oath like Juan and you and the other colonels and so many of our other guests. I took that oath, and it's breaking my heart to see what's happening, because this is a world-changing view for me. This is a shift in my worldview. I would have yelled at a guy like me 5 years ago. This is broke my heart. And it should be breaking the heart of every single one of the patriots and veterans who watches this. You should be agreeing with me. If your head's nodding with me, great. If you're sitting here going, man, I'm never watching that show again, then guess, no offense to our audience out there, and I hope this doesn't hurt anybody too bad, but if your response is to be mad at me and say I'm never watching Right America Media again, or NRN, or Veteran Nation, then you're part of the problem.
Well, this is a good example of what you did this weekend, because you look, I believe you were probably the youngest person in that group. This wasn't a bunch of youngsters throwing stuff. It wasn't that type of protesters. It was adult Americans just standing with signs. That's it.
And you would not believe, Skipper, the number of them that came up to me after the event was over and said, you told us, you've been telling us, but we didn't believe you. But our eyes were open today.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I want you guys to understand.
Yeah.
Like, your eyes have got to be opened. If this doesn't do it for you, then I don't know what else to say. I can't. It's not an us versus them. It's us fighting for the Republic, especially us veterans. We have got to stand up and say enough is enough. Juan, do you have something for us? To everybody, go over to the channel, watch my video, and share it out. I really would love to have the views. And if you know an attorney in the state of Minnesota who likes this kind of stuff, or somebody who could practice in the state of Minnesota who likes cases like this, I really feel like I have a lot of substance that could be used to make a point here in the courts. So if you know somebody, let me know. You can email me at mbrrpodcast at YouTube, or not YouTube, mbrrpodcast at yahoo.com. Juan, please tell me you have something for us to laugh at.
People are going to get out of the military. I mean, you can't be in forever. They're going to complain about how undisciplined the military is after they get out. Why are they still worried about the military after they get out? They're not in anymore. They complained the entire time they were in, and now they complain the entire time they're out. I mean, shouldn't they just move on with their lives? I don't understand. They'll make vague, ambiguous statements on Facebook about how the military is declining and quote-unquote going downhill. Okay, this is weird. They seem like, this seems kind of obsessive. When you ask them what they mean, they'll just say random things like, there's no discipline, but they won't qualify or quantify any of their statements.
That's mandatory fun day.
I will admit I'm the guy that's like, man, when I was in basic training.
It's every vet. Every vet.
The problem is, I'm going to be cliched right now. The Marine Corps has eliminated the use of pronouns, male and female pronouns. Now, you could call them all sorts of things. You could call them a butthead and a butt munch and a dirty whore, but you can't say sir or ma'am. So there is a decline.
It's ridiculous.
And I'm an old man.
I know.
Oh.
I will say, follow Mandatory Fun Day. He's on TikTok and Instagram. He does some funny stuff.
It's a great video.
Do we have any other videos, or is
Skipper,
that?
what do you got going?
No. Okay.
Nice.
I am.
We needed that at the end.
So I am right now planning an event. I think I might have the charity, the nonprofit that we have. We might be going to the NASCAR race when they come out here to California. So I'm trying to put that all together right now.
Wow, that's great. I'm happy for you, Skipper.
Oh, it'll be good for us because I'll be out there, and if I can, I'm going to be raffling some stuff off. And before we get there, I'll post all the for those interested in the raffle. I'll post it all online, so then you guys can join and raffle with us.
Once again, I'm very happy for you, Skipper, being able to go to a NASCAR race in California without your co-host. I'm happy for you, Skipper. I'm happy.
We'll send you to more events. We will. We're building up to some good stuff. So, yeah. What are you pushing?
You're gonna send me to some sort of like swim in the ice water thing, and then expect me to do it on camera, aren't you? That's what
National Ventriloquist Convention. Boom. That's all you.
Well, going to a convention where I have to watch a bunch of people with their hands stuck up a dummy's butt's going to be like co-hosting the show with you. So
Where do you want people to find you?
That
or
was
your...
unscripted. Unscripted, ladies and gentlemen.
Where do you want people to find you or your coffee?
They could find me and my merchandise at on my YouTube channel. I advertise it there. You can find me on Twitter at Robe Regiment. You can also find me on my email, once again, at mbrrpodcast at yahoo.com. Got it right that time. And I'm also on Getter at
nice.
Let me see. I've been on there for a while, but I haven't used it much. It's been kind of weird trying to get used to it. So it's TCMNBRR Pearson. So basically just my name with Minnesota Black Robe Regiment initials in between on Getter. So I'm over there. I got to start posting more stuff there, and it's just hard getting traction there. It's a really weird platform.
No,
it's a really weird platform, but.
And you can find us at Veteran Nation on TruthSocial. I do want to give a shout out to all of the fans who are currently watching on Gab through Right America Media, because we've had a lot of people there and they're driving some good things to us. So thank you for joining us, and we'll be back again next week. And as always, thank you for being worth serving.